Iron Order 1919 is a free online PvP strategy game. Choose a real country to lead through an alternative World War I timeline. In this game, the Great War never truly ended, and countries push for technological advancements that lead to mechs roaming the battlefields. Fight up to 100 other players in real-time games that can take weeks to complete. Use many different units to build your army, but also mechs such as Flying Fortress, land ships, or even Titans. Declare war on your neighbors or forge alliances with other players. Choose your own strategy, engage in epic battles, and take over the world. You can play with the same account on both PC and mobile. You get an exclusive gift. Click on the link in the description to get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Offer only available for 30 days. Don't lose time. World War I ended 103 years ago, yet even in 2022, weapons that were used in that terrible conflict remain in military service all over the world. Probably the oldest rifle still in service is the French Lebel Model 1886, an 8mm bolt-action weapon used throughout the French Empire and beyond. France built 3.45 million of these rifles during World War I, and it was also used by the armies of Serbia, Russia, Belgium, and even some US units. It has been encountered in Iraq in the 2000s and was used by insurgents in the war in Afghanistan up until 2021. The Russian Mosin-Nagant M1891 rifle is still in service today. The standard arm of the Imperial Russian Army during World War I, it was also the standard rifle for the Red Army in World War II and beyond. A 5-shot, bolt-action, internal magazine-fed weapon chambered in 7.62 by 54mm R. An incredible 37 million of these excellent rifles have been manufactured since 1891. Dozens of nations use the type, and today it is still in service with around 20 countries. Russia has retained the type as a ceremonial weapon, and it is also turned up on the Ukraine battlefields in 2022 as a reserve rifle. The sniper version is also in service on both sides during this conflict and remains as useful today as at Stalingrad in 1942. The National Bolivia Militia of Venezuela uses the Mosin as its standard rifle today, as does the 101st Alpine Regiment of the Bulgarian Army. A far more common sight today is the iconic weapon of the British Commonwealth and Empire armed forces during 2 world wars, and a fair few colonial skirmishes in between, the Lee Enfield. It is probably one of the finest bolt-action rifles ever made. Introduced in 1895 to replace the Lee Metford rifle, the Lee Enfield in its many variations would remain the standard British Army rifle until 1957, and in its sniper variation serve on until 1993, for a total of 98 years service. The World War I variant, the short magazine Lee Enfield Mk.III, the SMLE or Smelly, had a 10-round magazine loaded from 2 5-round stripper clips, firing the British .303. Incredibly, the Lee Enfield remains in service in 2022. Many Commonwealth Reserve units use the type, for example Malawi. Canada recently phased out the Lee Enfield from the Canadian Rangers in 2019, but it continues as a ceremonial guard weapon in South Africa and Australia. Jamaica uses the Lee Enfield for training police recruits in drill and field exercises, and for cadet forces shooting. Perhaps the largest user today is the Indian Police, the Lee Enfield being manufactured in India as the Ishapur 2A1 rifle. They are currently being phased out of frontline service but converted into anti-riot guns, so will continue to serve India for many years to come. Probably the oldest World War I era handgun still in service in 2022 is the Russian Nagant M1895 pistol. A 7-shot, gas-sealed revolver, chambered in 7.92 by 38mm R, it was designed by Belgian Lebel Nagant, specifically for the Imperial Russian forces. Used as the standard sidearm throughout World War I and World War II periods, manufacturing only ended in 1945. In Russia, the type lingered on well into the 21st century, being retired from the Postal Security Service in 2003 and the Bailiff Security Service in 2009. It was noted as used in Ukraine by independent security guards as late as 2017, and due to the current war, some have once again entered military service as a backup weapon to help support the Ukrainian forces. An iconic World War I-era Danish machine gun is still in service in 2022. The Madsen light machine gun entered service in 1902 and was the first true light machine gun. It came in 12 different calibers, and used a curved magazine similar to the later Bren light machine gun and had a bipod. During World War I, the Madsen was used by Imperial Russia, including as an aircraft machine gun, and the Imperial German Army also used the type. The Madsen served on throughout World War II in Danish, Chinese and Dutch service, and in the post-war period was used by Ireland and Portugal. Today, this venerable light machine gun is still in service with the Brazilian military police. Inherited from the Brazilian Army, the Brazilian police keep the type because it is very reliable and makes a very intimidating sound. A World War I-era rifle that is heavily used for ceremonial purposes today is the Springfield M1903. An iconic American weapon that was the standard rifle for US forces in World War I and at the beginning of World War II, before being replaced by the M1 Garand. The M1903 sniper version served right through World War II and far beyond. First seeing combat in the Philippine-American War in 1903, the Springfield was only finally phased out of US service in 1975, at the end of the Vietnam War. A 5-round bolt-action rifle firing the .30-06 cartridge, it was used by dozens of nations. Today it remains in US military service with drill teams and color guards, and as an instructional rifle for Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps at high schools. One of the biggest current users of the M1903 is the Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets, which has over 600 rifles. Almost all Cadet M1903s are deactivated. As parade or drill rifles, many countries also use the M1903 today. Enjoying something of a renaissance of late is the 1910 Maxim heavy machine gun in service with Imperial Russian forces throughout World War I and later the Red Army in World War II. It has reappeared in large numbers in the Ukraine war, Ukraine having an astonishing 35,000 of these weapons in storage in 2011. A belt-fed, water-cooled machine gun, it is mounted on a wheeled trolley for ease of movement and is fitted with an armoured shield to help protect the gunner. They only stopped making these weapons in 1945, but it has been used by dozens of nations before and since. Russian separatist forces in the Donbass region still use the Maxim, which is still a formidable weapon, particularly in in-place positions, noted for its accuracy and reliability. Last on the list is an American icon, the M1911, also called the Colt 1911, the US sidearm that served their armed forces from 1911 until its final replacement in 1986, and has since soldiered on unofficially in US service. Designed by John Browning, the single-action semi-automatic, recoil-operated pistol is chambered in 45 ACP.
Right, let her rip.
Reliable and with good stopping power, US personnel used it in World War I and II, Korea, Vietnam, and the First Gulf War, and in smaller numbers in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Brazil originally imported almost 17,000 M1911s between 1937 and 41. Later, the Brazilian military developed its own version, manufactured by Imbel, the M973 chambered in 9x19mm parabellum. Malaysia uses the type in its PGK Special Forces section, the Royal Malaysian Police. North Korea uses locally manufactured copies of the M1911 to arm its special forces and its Presidential Guard. The South Korean Air Force officer's standard sidearm is the license-built M1911, constructed by S&T Daewoo. The Philippine Armed Forces still use many M1911A1 pistols as sidearms for officers and Special Forces personnel. Most are locally made by Armscore. Likewise, the Royal Thai Army uses a licensed copy, the Type 86, chambered in 45 ACP. Iron Order 1919 is a free online PvP strategy game set up during an alternative World War I timeline. To get an exclusive gift, click on the link in the description to get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Click the link in the description, choose your country and fight your way to victory. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.